ladies and gentlemen all around the world. I am Larry Ajayi, and your host on the Global Talkative Series. It's a global platform where we come to hang out, inspire one another, and also, collaborate, share our minds, and then have a discussion, with each other, answer questions that are very, very pertinent to our art. And then today I have a dear friend, a brother from another mother in the house. It's someone you know very well. And, before talking, you know, going to the question, we just want to make sure that our audio, sounds perfect. We are broadcasting or we are streaming live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, real time. And thank you for those who are joining from around the world. From Nigeria, I see Pastor Timon Obiawe, I see Fina Brooks, I see Bola Titu Agbola, and I see a lot of folks who are coming in. It's going to be a wonderful time today, because we've got a doctor in the house. So get ready to, dissect, do some medical surgery, on relationships, because these are life issues. And then it's an honor for me to have Dr. Sam Owa here in the house, a certified life coach and relationship coach. By the way, he is also a medical doctor. So it's not just a doctor by virtue of okay, they give him just like that. He's actually a medical doctor, so you can understand where it's coming from. He has got a proper understanding of how to dissect your ailment, both physically and also mentally and probably spiritually. So I'm going to just read the bio of the doctor first, and then we'll go into the questions and answer segment. So I read. Dr. Samuel Iwa is a relationship coach, medical doctor, and humanist who is passionate about helping people cultivate healthy relationships, starting from the one with themselves. After practicing medicine for a couple of years, Dr. Sam realized that too many of the patients and many in the world today are succeeding at most everything except relationships. So we decided to become an active part of the conversation in changing that narrative. He left the practice of medicine and is currently doing a master's degree in counseling psychology to become a relationship and marriage therapist. That is Dr. Samuel, just in a nutshell for you. And today, our topic of discussion is made in quarantine, family and relationships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, that word good, bad, and ugly, I first heard about that word in a film I watched somewhere back in history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, back in the day. So, but you know what? Those are actually the real things we experience in our lives, in our homes. And this pandemic has actually brought a new dimension to the way relationships and family lives evolve. That's a new normal. And it's really, really pertinent for us to have a proper understanding of what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and with whom to do it. And that is why we're glad to have you in the house to answer this question. Now, to those who may not know, explain what you do as a life coach. What aspect of life do you coach people in?
Actually, I think that's like the best question been asked in a really long time because um I was on a live a couple of days ago, and I was talking about myself, and somebody was saying, please, when you're done, I would like you to talk about relationships. And it was just kind of funny because I was talking about the relationship I was having with myself. Whenever we hear the word relationships, we're always thinking relationship with someone else. But there's actually a more crucial one, actually the most important one, and that's the relationship we have with ourselves. And many of us, because we grew up we became aware of ourselves in the context of the relationship we had with our parents. So you were born, as you were growing up, and you were aware of your environment. What did you see? Your mom, your dad, your caregiver, your aunt, your uncle. And you grew up to understand love. You grew up to understand relationships by the relationships you had with other people. But for most of us, we don't realize that as we're growing, we're supposed to begin cultivating relationships with ourselves. So what happens is that relationship is usually very absent. We're not aware. We don't know what's happening within ourselves. And my job is basically to help people go back to that. So to help people realize that there's a healthy relationship to be had with yourself, and that's the foundation of having a relationship with anyone. If the relationship with you isn't healthy, I mean, just think about something as easy as loving yourself. How do you teach someone to love you when you don't even know how to love yourself? How do you teach someone to value you, to see your worth, if you don't even know, what you're worth? How do you teach someone to treat you right, to respect you, if you are not able to do that first for yourself? And so what I technically do is teach people to see themselves first. And when you're able to see yourself, then you're able to stand up in a relationship and be seen. So that's basically what I do for people.
That is very key. First of all, relationship with yourself.
Yes.
You first before others.
Yes.
That is deep. Now, what gravitated you towards this occupation? What drove you into doing this?
Um, it was the practice of medicine. I went into medicine because I grew up in Nigeria, and for me, it was one of the things that if you do, you know that you're always going to be employed. You can never run out of a job. But I picked that in particular because I always knew that I cared about people. I love human beings. I wanted to help. So I thought medicine was it for me. But when I began practicing medicine and I would spend some time talking to my patients, I realized that there was something more, I remember one particular patient who would come in and we would admit her for high blood pressure. Okay.
Mhm.
But I realized that whenever she comes into the hospital, she's seen at the emergency. So this one time I saw her at the emergency, her blood pressure was super high, like the kind of high that would alarm any doctor.
Yeah.
And then when you admit her, you put her on antihypertensives immediately. After about 2, 3 days in the hospital, her blood pressure would now drop so far below the normal.
Wow.
And that always made me wonder, like, why is it that when we're giving her the treatment, it drops so far below the normal? Then I would reduce the medication a little bit, then I'll notice that her blood pressure is coming back to normal. And then while she's there, we'll stop the medication and everything will be okay. So I was looking at her charts and I realized that had happened like 2 or 3 times. So I went into the room and I said, tell me what's happening, what's going on, why is it that this is what I've noticed? And then she broke down and began to tell me a lot of things. And I realized that there are some issues that are mental, there are some issues that are emotional. Now for me, when I was able to help people deal with those mental and emotional issues, especially in the context of being an African, being a Nigerian, when you're growing up in a society where people are not concerned about things like that. People don't even know that things like that exist. For most of us, it's either physical or spiritual.
Mhm.
So if you're bleeding and a pastor sees that you're bleeding, they'll tell you, go to the hospital, see a doctor. But if you tell a pastor you're sad, they'll probably tell you, just pray about it, God will help you. If you tell a pastor you're depressed, they'll probably tell you, pray about it, God will sort it for you. And I get it. But I think for me, it was just being able to help that aspect of the health that most people were not aware of, and seeing the changes in people. I realized that that was more rewarding for me. So when I came to Canada, I thought to myself, this is a new opportunity for you to actually do something that you enjoy. This is an opportunity for you to do something that you really love. And my parents were not really happy about me leaving medicine because obviously we're talking about thousands and thousands. I went to school in the Caribbean, so they spent a lot of money. But this just gives me fulfillment. You know, have clients in Australia, New Zealand. I can be up at night by 12 midnight talking to my clients because it's morning where they are, and I'm okay. You know, when I was practicing medicine, I couldn't wait to leave the hospital when my shift was over because so this is just different for me. This is I love doing it. I can do this all day, and you know, it's just it's fulfilling for me. So yeah, that's how I got into this.
That's amazing. You know, when you do the thing enjoy,
Yeah,
time flies by so quickly.
that's correct.
Like, look
Yes.
at that. So how long have you been doing this? You know, the mental training, how long have you been doing it? How long?
So I finished med school. I started practicing in 2012, and maybe sometime in 2014 was when I really began to counsel some of my patients. So I would say roughly about 6 years. And then right now I'm about a year into my master's degree. So hopefully by middle of next year I should begin my internship to
Okay,
become a therapist. Yeah, I'm almost
good,
done.
good.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, we have a forensic physician from Bami, Dr. Laila Gile, saying that it can still be your medicine and have your healthy emotional well-being.
I am aware of that. I think my struggle with medicine is that it's timing. So right now I can sit with my patients for 3 hours. I can sit with my clients for 4 hours and we can have long sessions. With medicine, that's kind of harder because you have people sitting outside and waiting for you. Um it's not really practical. So all the family practices I have been to, that's kind of what I've noticed. And I think for me, there's a lot of really good doctors out there who can really focus on the physical health and just, you know, help people out with that. So I mean, I'd rather just do what I enjoy doing. And if someone has a physical illness, they can meet this doctor, you know, and I know the doctors, there's really good doctors out there. But I
Yeah.
think that when it comes to the and also when I say mental health, because I know someone mentioned something about psychiatry.
Yeah.
When I say mental health, I really just for me it's about that relationship with self and relationship with others. And I know that psychiatrists, especially in this part of the world, are more focused with some really tough personality disorders like you know depression. Well, no, not depression. Depression is not a personality disorder, but like disorders like depression, anxiety, then you know maybe narcissistic personality disorder, the sociopaths and the psychopaths and stuff like that. That's more what psychiatrists deal with. I just really wanted to help you know the rest of us
Okay.
have that healthy relationship with ourselves, and you know there's also that thing when people want to go see a psychiatrist, you know, there's the there's the stigma that's attached with that. You know, I mean, if you had a problem with your relationship, will you go see a psychiatrist? I don't think so, because you know most people will be like, "But why is he seeing the?" You know, so I just wanted to be, you know, one of the regular guys who can, you know, have some relationship issues. Yeah, let's work on it. Equip you with the tools and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, but
Right.
thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Gile, for that. Thank you, IB, for joining. Thank you, Elijah, thank you for creating. Thank you for joining. Thank you, I think Ajayi for joining. Thank you, Kampala for being on Facebook. Mobile Elijah, thank you for joining. Goodbye, Kumba, thank you for joining. Dr. Sam, can you just reduce the volume of the laptop a little bit? So I think
Okay.
because we have maximum volume on Instagram.
Laptop is 0.
Oh, 0? Can you hear it very well?
I can't hear you on the laptop. I'm using the phone.
Oh, okay. You know what? Increase a little bit of laptop and then turn down the phone a little bit.
I should increase the volume of the laptop a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. A bit like 10 and then the phone reduce a bit.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So
I've become a tech today, phone tech.
Okay, good. I have someone on Instagram, Vimbai, saying, "What do you think would improve the stigma of mental health in the African community?"
So I think I think it's just for more people to the people who are doing it to come out and say they're doing it and to talk about the advantages. So for me personally, I and my wife we have our own therapist. Um,
Mm.
talk to her once a week. Sometimes it's only me who talks. Sometimes it's only my wife who talks. Sometimes it's both of us. And it really helps because we all have blind spots. We all have areas of our lives that we may not be able to see by ourselves. And when our partners or spouses point it out to us, there's the extra lens of relationship that we used to see. So I'll give you an example. If your wife comes to you and says, "Do you think maybe you shouldn't have stepped on that?" When you hear that, do you think maybe you shouldn't have stepped on that? For the past 10 years, if you guys have been married, all the time she has told you, do you think maybe you shouldn't have? That whole history comes to play immediately. That one time that she's telling you that one thing. And
Mm.
so all the ways you felt, all those times, all the reactions you've had, all those times, they might come into play this one time, and your reaction might be very different as opposed to if it was a therapist that was sitting in front of you and said, "Do you think maybe you could have said it this way? Do you think maybe you could have done it this way?" It's almost as if you get a fresh eye on
Mm.
things to view
Mm.
things and see them from another perspective. So it's just for us to keep talking about it. I think another thing also is to encourage our spiritual leaders to understand that really they're supposed to guide us spiritually,
Mhm.
not mentally and emotionally. That's really key. If more
Yeah.
of our spiritual leaders who people trust very well and listen to can say, when you come say, "Look, this is a mental health issue. I suggest you go see so and so therapist. I suggest you go see so and so psychologist. They will really help you." I think that would also be really good as opposed to trying to sort these issues out by themselves. And sometimes in ignorance, and those solutions don't really come. And I think the other thing would be to say that most of us should just realize that when you want to become a doctor, you go to med school.
Mhm.
When you want to become an engineer, you go to engineering school. Most people know this. I mean, it's common sense. If you want to be
Okay.
able to do relationships, you need to go to relationship school. And therapy is a relationship school because
Mm.
what's the therapist doing for you? Your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. That's the therapist's work. There's nothing else. A healthy relationship that Sam can have with Sam, and a healthy relationship that Sam can have with other people. If Sam is healthy on the inside, if Sam has a healthy relationship with himself, then obviously Sam goes out there at work. Sam is amazing. Marriage, Sam is amazing. With the kids, Sam is amazing because from the foundation, Sam is healthy with himself. So that's what I would say would be the
Okay.
steps to.
Thank you very much for those who are joining on Instagram and Facebook. Adiola, Anu Mola, thank you for joining. Tony Okon from Nigeria, thank you for joining. Tony Agraf, the CEO of the Gambia, thank you for joining. We appreciate you all. So the first question we have is, from your perspective, can you tell us what impact would the pandemic have had on families and relationships during this season? It's a broad question.
Oh, um, okay. I think that the pandemic would have had so many different million impacts. Okay, but I think the biggest one that has stood out for me, especially for my line of work, is that it exposed a lot of the things that we have been covering for a really long time. So in fact, this period I was so busy. It's just going down a little bit because you know one of the things that I try to tell people is that marriage, relationships with kids, relationships with our parents, it's a fraction of the pie that makes up our lives. We
Mm.
still have work, we still have careers. There's a lot of things that we do as human beings. Now, one thing that I realized many people were able to do is to focus on work, focus on career.
Mm.
And for many people, they've been in marriages 5, 10 years. They were growing apart. away from each other. They are aware, they know. And every time they try to come back and reconnect, it was always hard. Not because they meant to, not because they don't love each other, but again, because we don't know how to do relationships. So just imagine that somebody saying, I want to be a doctor. And every day you come home, you haven't gone to doctor school, you haven't gone to medical school, you're trying to treat the patient, and the patient dies. You fail. Then you're frustrated and you're like, what? I don't know what to do. Every time I try, this thing is not working. So what do? Instead of going to medical school, you give up. So that's what many people have been doing in their relationship. They come home every day, you try, it's not working. The other person tries, it's not working. And at some point, everybody just said, you know what? We're just gonna be here. We're gonna treat it as it is. I'll just focus on myself. You focus on yourself. We'll be here, maybe for the kids, maybe because we're Christians, maybe because we want to survive. Whatever the reason is. There's some stories we tell ourselves, but a lot of people just faced their lives and went ahead with it. And they come home every day. They treat each other with respect. They treat each other with courtesy. But that relationship it had disappeared. It was dead.
Wow.
And I think that for most people, this pandemic isolated us. It kept us with each other. We couldn't run away. We couldn't go to work. And those cracks began to really show and really become obvious. And for me, that would be the biggest effect of the pandemic. So, I had a lot of people reaching out and saying, look, we've been home now for 2 weeks. It's been really hard. We don't know where to go. We don't know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, you've come to the right place. This is how we can do it. This is where we can go. And, so we start working on the relationship. And to be honest with you, relationships are easy if people know what to do. And the only thing is we don't. And it does take a lot of training. It does take a lot of, skill acquisition. But once we do that, it's really easy to relate with another human being, because honestly, all we're looking for at the end of the day is to connect with each other. When you see two people who have gotten together, they loved each other at some point. I mean, they wanted to be with each other, but it's just all the gaps that exist in community. There's a lot of things, but that's what I think has been the biggest impact from my perspective when it comes to COVID-19.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate that. So, Chizoba, I saw you. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Ajakai, thank you.
Chizoba is my friend.
Thank you very much for joining. We appreciate you all for joining. Dr. Lagos said something on Instagram. He said, I just want to read that. He said, how do you convert this to economic advantage as a professional? Although, although I'm trying to read that, although I accept that is not the foremost motive or drive.
How do you convert it to an economic advantage? I think, like I said, for me, this period has been my busiest period. So actually, it has been economically advantageous to me. It got to the point where I had to actually say I couldn't work with some people. Like, some people would need to see me and say, we need to talk like right now. And sometimes when you're in a relationship, the way it can be so pressing. Like you're at home, there's fighting. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I think the internet is just trying to offer.
Yeah. That's what I noticed too. That's what I was asking. Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. I was trying to say that it has actually been economically good for me, like better than most times. So because this period, a lot of people would reach out and say, it got to the point where I had to say, look, I can't do this right now because I'm also in school. But like you said, that's not the focus. A lot of times I charge a certain price. I charge $90 an hour for singles. I charge $150 an hour for couples. And many times there's people that I see that are willing, that are ready to work on their relationships, and sometimes they cannot afford it. So what I do is when I see the effort, when I see the willingness, I've had people that I talk to for free. I've had people that, maybe they pay for 4 sessions, and then after that I give them 4 after that. Because I think for me the idea is, and that's really why I stopped doing medicine. Because if I was rich, I really wouldn't charge people for this. When I see people happy in their relationships, when a couple sends me a message and says, we connected, we shared with each other, I felt safe enough to tell her this, I felt safe enough to tell him that, it's just like, I don't know, it does something for me. It's honestly, it's got nothing to do with money. It's just, and that's another thing, when we talk about having the relationship with yourself. Like I said, my parents, all of them, all my parents. And when I say all my parents, you have to understand I have 6. So my mom never married my dad. So I have a mom and a stepfather. I have a father and a stepmom. And
Wow.
then I have my father-in-law and my
In-law,
mother-in-law.
mother-in-law.
We're close. So I have 6 parents. None of them, were fully supportive of what I'm doing, especially when I started. But just having, I knew that this is what I was meant to do. It's fulfilling for me. So it really has nothing to do with money for me. But again, we have to survive, like you said. So I think converting it to an advantage would just be providing value for people.
Okay.
Providing value for people. When people come, they work with me. I've had people who say, because like right now I'm a coach, right? I'm not a certified counselor. That's what I'm working towards. So sometimes people come to me and they say, you're a coach. I was looking for a counselor. I say, let's work together. 1 hour. If it doesn't work for you, you get a full refund. That's what I do for people. So they come, work with me 1 hour, and then they want to continue. That's what makes me happy. That's what gives me that fulfillment. If somebody
Wow.
works with me the first session and they say, not a good fit, I didn't really like, I give you your money, you go back. So that's the value. Once you offer that value to people, I think that they'll always come back. And sometimes people recommend, like this period, I had maybe 3, 4 clients in the UK, and it was word of mouth. It wasn't
Wow.
even maybe Instagram or anything like that. So I think it's about value.
That's very
People
good.
would, yeah.
So I'm going to the next question. Can we say COVID-19 has had a more negative or positive impact on relationships?
Ay, ay, ay. Okay. I think it depends on how you look at it. Okay. For me, it has had a positive impact. And the reason I say positive impact is because it showed us the cracks. All
Mm.
the cracks that were there, it made them obvious, it made us see it. And to me, that means now we see the problem and now we can fix it. So that's like you driving a car, you always thought the engine was fine, and then all of a sudden now you see the problem. It depends on how you look at it. Some people can look at it and say, well, I don't like that this problem is now so obvious. Another person can look at it and say, I'm glad I can see the problem so that it means that I can fix it. So for me, I would say good. But there's another perspective, and that perspective is the perspective that has worshipped relationships as an institution, not as a relationship. And now I'm being very specific with marriage. From the context of marriage, it's always been an institution. Every time we talk about it, we say, do you want the marriage to break up? Do you want the marriage to this? Do you want the marriage to that? We're talking about it because it's sacred to us. But there are many marriages that exist today that have zero relationship. Husband and wife are not friends. They're not close. They're tolerating each other. They've been doing that for years. And most people are happy to just see that perfect picture. And so for most people, if that institution is kept together, they're happy. So to them, this might be a negative thing because
Mm.
COVID-19 actually began to show those cracks more and more. And for some people, they might look at that and be like, when this COVID-19 was not there, we were not fighting as much. We were not quarreling as much. We were not screaming as much. So to them, COVID-19 might look like a bad thing. But to me, From my perspective, that's information. Like, oh, so now there's something to be fixed. Now there's something to work on. What is making us fight here? What is making us quarrel here? What did you do? What did I do? So to me, it's a good thing. So I guess it depends on your perspective.
That's good. Thank you very much. It's been amazing talking to Dr. Sam. And if you're joining us on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, we appreciate you so much for joining. We thank you so much from joining us all over the world. So the next question we have is, with such a high diversity, what would you advise to couples wanting to get married? Some are trying to get out of it, and some are trying to get inside. So with this COVID-19, what are you tell them?
Hello, Hamra, Yambali. How are advice for single couples? Advice for single people. I think that we talked about how most of us grow up thinking that we need someone to love us in order for us to love ourselves. We also think that relationships define who we are. For some of us, marriage was something to be ticked off a list of items. I went to school, I graduated, I got a job. Now I have a good paying job. What's the next thing? Marriage.
Yeah.
So for us, it was just something to be accomplished. I think that for the single person today, I want to say that we live in a generation where we know better. We live in a generation where we have more knowledge. I want to suggest to you that marriage is more than an institution. It is an institution, but there's a relationship to be had between husband and wife. There's a beautiful relationship to be had between partners. And if you want to get married for money, I'm sure there's a lot of rich men out there. If you want to get married because you want to have kids, I'm sure there's a lot of people who can impregnate you. If you want to get married because you want to have somebody who will cook for you morning, afternoon, and night, fresh meals, clean your house, give you kids, I'm sure there's a lot of people who can provide that. But if you're looking to have a healthy relationship with your partner, to be in a relationship where you're intimate with them, and let me just break down intimacy simply. Think about two people having sex physically. The best sex you can have is when two adults are completely naked with each other, completely intimate. Think about having sex in I don't know, maybe in a plane where you don't take off your clothes. Maybe you're trying to have a quickie. It's not as intimate, right? You have the sex, but it's not as intimate because your bodies are not touching. There's no real closeness between the both of you. That's what mental and emotional intimacy looks like. And that can be had in a marriage. That can be had in a relationship. So if your desire is to be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, howeverly intimate you want to be with someone else, if that is your desire, this is what I'll say to you. Find yourself. Find yourself. Know who you are. And again, the best place to do that is in a relationship with a therapist, with a coach, with a counselor. Someone who can help you discover yourself. And I'm going to tell you why. A lot of us go around wearing masks. It's funny that the I think it's Latin interpretation of the word personality is actually mask. We wear masks because, again, how we grew up. You needed to be a good child for mommy to love you. You needed to be a good child for daddy to love you, for daddy to approve of you. Every time you misbehaved, people treated you badly. Every time you did something wrong, people would not talk to you. This is how we have been living. And so a lot of us have learned to act a certain way, to behave a certain way so that we can be approved of, so that we can be loved, so that we can be accepted, so that we can be received. And so a lot of us are not spending enough time being ourselves. And so we're so confused. We're going out there into the world. We date Mr. A or Mrs. B. We are a different person. We date the next person, the other person, you date this person likes black shoe, then you are a black shoe lover. Then you date the next person, the person likes red shoes, then you are a red shoe lover. You date the next one, white shoe, you are a white. You don't know who you are. You see, you're going around looking to be accepted as opposed to being yourself and looking for alignment.
Yeah.
So alignment would be that you find yourself and the right person, the person who likes who you are.
Yeah.
One of the examples I use is like the Bentleys and the Ferraris of the world. Not everyone likes a Bentley or a Ferrari.
Yeah. True.
Not everybody likes a Mercedes. Not everybody likes a BMW. We all have the kind of cars that, if you had all the money in the world today, you know what you will go for. You know the kind of house you will go for. You know the kind of shoes you would wear. The makers of those shoes, they don't care about the people that don't like them. They care about the people that like them. Those are the people they cater to. That is alignment. They're not looking for acceptance. So my suggestion to any single person would be to find themselves. So once you know who you are, then you're confident in being that person. So you step out there into the world, and anybody that sees you and says they don't like you, you'll be like, that's okay. Thank you. I accept, it's fine. And then when you find somebody who likes you, both of you know that this is who you really are, and you can actually get to cultivate a healthy relationship with yourself. And that's just like scratching the surface, because this is a lot deeper than we're having right now.
Cracking the surface. This is amazing. This is amazing. If you're joining us on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, we've been having a discussion with Dr. Sam Owa. He's a certified life and relationship coach, and he's also known as the Waking Human on Instagram. So if you have any question, you can put a question on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, and we'll surely have some time to answer those questions. So now, next question, Dr. Sam. How can we have a near perfect relationship if there's anything as such in this world?
Hello, I didn't really get that.
It's on the screen. It said, how can we have a near perfect relationship if there is anything as such in this world?
I forgot the question is on the screen. Okay, how can we have a near perfect relationship if there's anything as such in Okay, so that's a really interesting question. So I would say that a perfect relationship is dependent on what that person's definition of a perfect relationship is. So if my idea of a perfect relationship is finding a woman who would never question me, who would never say anything, if I tell her jump, she jumps, sits, she sits. If I find a woman who does that, I found my perfect relationship.
Yeah.
I'm good. Once that woman begins to stand up for herself and question me, what's going on here? You understand? If I'm a woman and I'm thinking to myself, I found the perfect man, and that's a man who maybe buys me anything I want, listens to me all the time. What I'm trying to say is, whatever story you're telling yourself when it comes to relationships, when you find that, that's your perfect. When you don't, that's your not so perfect. Now, what is the story that I have told myself about relationships? Me personally, the story I've told myself about relationships is a relationship is a dance between two people. A dance that I use the word dance because when you're dancing with someone, there's a potential for you to step on their toes.
Yeah.
There's a potential for you to not be in sync or not be in rhythm with them, because they have their own idea of what that dance should be like. A relationship to me is not forcing that person to dance your way. Neither does the person force you to dance their way.
Yeah.
But you're coming together to find a rhythm that suits you both. And so for me, a perfect relationship will be a relationship where both partners are willing to learn.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it's not going to be perfect because, you see, I'm observing you and you're observing me. I'm learning from you and you're learning from me. I'm being curious. I'm saying, what ticks him off? What ticks him on? Why? What was happening? That day you got upset. What really happened? You two, you're questioning yourself. You two, you're questioning me. So we are in this space to learn and grow together.
Hmm.
With that mindset, it means that our relationship will be perfecting.
Hmm.
Present continuous. It
Yes.
gets better with each day.
All
So as
right.
well, so we're not in that space where we're growing apart. We're in that space where we're growing towards each other. Because a lot of times people think that when they get married, they're already like this. No, 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 no. You're not like this. By the time you discover yourselves, you live with that person 6 months, 1 year, you realize that both of you were far apart like this. So
Yeah.
now it takes work to grow towards each other. So we're dancing, we're watching, we're learning. And many times again, you also need to do that in the space of therapy, in the space of
Wow.
coaching, where someone can teach you. Because again, many of us don't know how to do that. So we end up pushing each other away. We end up hurting each other. We end up, so for me, a perfect relationship is, what do you think it should be? What are you looking for? What do you want?
Hmm.
And if you're looking for the kind of thing I just described, then obviously it means that you have to learn how to be empathetic, you have to learn how to be curious, you have to learn how to speak with respect, you have to know what commitment is, you have to know, there's a lot of things again. But yeah, that's for me what a perfect relationship would be.
Basically, it has to do with understanding each other, you know, allowing each other and giving each other space,
Yes.
time to make mistakes, to do things, to acknowledge each other. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Chizoba said yes, and I agree with you as well. Thank you. So, what steps can individuals take
Yes.
to better improve their relationships in days to come? Because this is a new world we're living in now.
Okay. um Practical steps. The first thing I would say to improve your relationship is to have a certain understanding. And that understanding is that the person in front of you is a completely different human
Mm,
being from who you are. You need, we all need to understand that the factors that come into play to make us who we are so unique. Even twins that were born in the same home had the same exact experiences. They are not the same
yeah.
because those experiences, the same experience can happen to two people at the same time and impact them differently. So people have to remember that that person in front of you is different.
Mm,
I want you to think of the person in front of you as a new vacuum cleaner that you just bought, that they told you it was brought from space.
mm,
You have no idea how this thing works.
mm,
You have no idea how to operate it. What are you going to do? You're
mm,
going to look for the manual. And I want everyone to remember that the only person who has a manual to loving them is the person standing in front of you.
wow.
Instead of assuming that you know how to love that person, allow them to teach you. And
Mm,
how do you do that? Get curious.
mm,
Get curious. This is something I say a lot. Get curious. You see, if I picked up a vacuum cleaner from space and I thought to myself, I've been operating vacuum cleaners since I was 10 years old, the assumption in my mind might just be to look for one red button that looks like an on button. I'll switch it on. Then I'll, because I want to operate it, because I already think I know how to do this. But no, just assume that you know nothing. Assume that you're a novice. Because even the person standing in front of you does not even have a complete understanding of themselves. So be completely curious. I want you to, this is the best practical advice I can give you. I want you to erase everything. And this is why I don't like gender roles. This is why I don't like gender descriptions. This is why, because I'll give you an example. I was telling my wife the other day, I said, we had some food in the fridge and the food spoiled, right? And
mhm.
when I saw the food, my first instinct was to say, how could you allow this food to spoil?
Spoiled.
That was my
Of course.
first instinct. But I realized that that was coming from an idea of it's a woman's responsibility. But I was now asking myself, but guy, you two, you were in this house. It's two of you that
Yeah.
have been in the house. You said, why do you allow this to spoil? And I kept quiet. And the only reason I'm using that as an example is to say those assumptions that you come in with into your relationship, they make you judge the person. You can see I'd already judged her in my mind. How can you allow this? Why would you? Then from there it becomes a fight. Then we're arguing. And then it's like, did anything really happen there? No. So come in with a blank slate. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Yeah.
Now, when you're curious, when you're genuinely curious, that person that you're with, they will know. And when they do, they will then begin to show you how you can love them. You know, a practical example of that would be sex. I've had a lot of couples. They've been having sex for ages. And they're in front of me. And then somebody is saying, I don't really like it when you do this. And it's like, but I've been doing this for like 5 years now. You never said anything. Yes. I was afraid that if I told you, it might make you feel I don't want you. It might make you feel like I don't really want to be with you. And that was not my intention, but I just didn't really like it. But you see, if that person was curious, I mean, if you're making love to your husband, you're making love to your wife, you can ask, do you like what I'm doing? Do you like this? Is this okay with you? Do you want me to do anything else? Most people feel awkward being curious because society actually likes it when we already know what to do. Think about all the romantic movies you've watched. Who is the perfect guy? Who is the perfect woman? The one that when they came into your life, they knew that you wanted to be kissed on your left nipple on the black spot under the other spot that was that pin spot. You know, it's like this person knows. You say, oh, he knew me. He knew everything.
Yeah.
And that's the romantic fantasy that we paint. But that's not real, my friends. It's not real. You are the only person that can teach that person. So let's come into that relationship. Let's drop all the assumptions. Let's get curious. And when you get curious, that person has a chance to tell you. And when that person tells you, could you imagine loving someone just the way they want to be loved?
Get curious, you know. Have the thirst to want to know, to want to learn more. You know, there's a proverb that says that in African adage that he who asks for the way never misses the direction.
That's right.
So if you
and you know, that's so good because that is really good because you see, even when I like that example because sometimes you ask for way and you still miss your way because the person who told you didn't really know the way. But you see, as long as you keep asking, but sometimes, like, you can be in a marriage, right? 5 years ago, the person told you, I like it when you kiss me on my left cheek. 5 years later, it might change. You see? I mean, I'm sure you have experienced this. 5 years ago, your wife liked something. Now she doesn't like it again. And you're like, so you see, you can't even, that's why it's a dance. It's a dance. You really have to just keep being curious. Like, wait, is it that you didn't like that thing? And again, another thing around curiosity. When that person finally reveals to you what it is that like, you have to be very careful about judgment. You see, when we judge people, it really has nothing to do with what that person wants. It has to do with what we think the person should want.
Yeah.
That's where judgment comes from. If you go back to the example I just gave you about the food in the fridge, my judgment was coming from a place of what I'm thinking my wife should be or who she should be and how she should be. So from that perspective, when someone tells you that this is who I am, this is what I want to be, this is how I want to be, you want to be open to it. And why I really love this paradigm is this. Imagine if we had people who come together and they are actually checking to see if they align. They are not struggling to make sure they end up together. I'm going to say that again. Two people in a relationship looking to see if their values align, not looking to ensure that we must end up together. So you will now have healthier relationships because when it's not working, Those two people will be communicating. Say, it looks like you like to dance break dance, so but me it's tango that I like. Say,
Yeah.
yeah, it's break dance I like. I've always liked break dance, So you don't really like tango, right? Okay, no wahala. I really like to, but okay. I'm sure you'll find somebody who likes break dance. Me, let me go and look for my own person that likes tango. No fighting.
Yeah.
As opposed to you too like break dance. Tango is the best dance. No, no, no.
Oh,
Tango is not the best dance. You are fighting because of what you want and judging the person for what they want.
oh wow.
So you can actually have a dance, but you need to find someone who likes your kind of dance. So the way you
Mm.
like to dance, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Find someone who likes that dance. So that when both of you come together, just think about it. We both want to dance the tango. I mean, we'll make mistakes, we'll step on each other. But
Yeah.
even when we say, "Oh no, you stepped on me," say, "Oh, maybe it's because it's an easier conversation." Because if
Mm.
somebody is dancing breakdance, just kicking here and there, they'll be kicking you, they'll be
Yeah.
injuring you, you'll be angry. That's not how to dance tango. No, don't. And then you'll be fighting unnecessarily. So that's it for me. That's it for me.
That's amazing. You have to like learn to let go. So that you don't think it's all about me. You have to think of others first to make things
That's right.
work. I have a question from someone now, especially from African perspective. This idea of seeing a shrink or seeing a counselor as a Christian couple or otherwise, you know, it's not thing that everybody, from African background really love to do because they think, we go to church, we pray, or we go to mosque, we pray. So you have to learn to obey me. I'm the head, you are the wall, you are the neck. Can you just explain why it's important? Because people think, like you said, if you're going to see a psychiatrist in a doctor, they think you have mental in African, mindset. But in this new age, new world, why is it important for
Yeah.
couples, whether you are healthy or not? Because if people can go for medical checkup when they're not sick, just to make sure that things are okay, why not going to see a
Right.
shrink? What do you do? Please tell us why we need to do that regularly.
Okay. So I want us to think about our lives this way. Each and every one of us, we've been traumatized. I want us to listen to this word, trauma. And I like to use analogies. So again, I'm gonna paint a picture, okay? Um, Imagine if you're sitting at a table with someone, you guys are so close to each other, you're gisting. Then the person raises their hands and gives you a slap. Just like that, right? Like, whoa, whoa. And the person is like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But that was really painful to you. That's trauma, all right? As you guys are gisting again, if that person should raise their hands to scratch their head, the tendency for you to do this exists because you were hit the first time that person raised their hands.
Mm.
Now, every time that person raises their hand, you might think this person is about to hit me again. What do? You dodge. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Now, when we feel attacked, we all do one or all of three things.
Mm.
One or all of three things. When we feel attacked, we either run away, we put up a shield or a wall, or we attack back.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again. We run away, we put up a shield or a wall, or we attack back.
Mm.
I want you to think of your life as someone who is always doing one or all of these three things whenever you feel threatened. Okay? So, from a physical perspective, for the example that I gave, if I raise my hand, if you have a knife, if you are an extreme person, as I just raised that my hand, even whether you don't care if I wanted to slap you or not, you will just take that knife and slice off that hand. You
Mm.
don't even want to holla. No story. You raise your hand. The first time you slap me, I'm not playing anymore. Pew! Hand is gone. Now you can't slap me again.
Yeah.
For some people, they'll just defend themselves, just do like this. For some people, they move back. For some people, they cut your hand, move back. Some people, they cut your hand, defend themselves. Now, I want you to think about that mentally and emotionally. Many of us, in short, all of us, have been traumatized all through our lives.
Yeah.
Every single thing that happened to you from the day you were born. You know, I always tell my wife, I say, our job is to not traumatize our kids as much as we, you know, as much as we traumatized. So it's like a reduction of trauma because you can't help it. You know what I mean? Like, we are traumatizing them. I'll tell you an example. My son is so emotional, so emotional. And you know, the other day, I can't remember what was happening. I think he was riding his bicycle. His sister rode far ahead of him. He just burst out and started crying. And that got me so frustrated. I'm like, but why are you crying? You know, I wasn't happy with him. Why are you crying? You're always crying. You cry too much. And honestly, I got back home. I was talking to my wife. I said, I know exactly what was happening with this boy. And I know that in that moment, I didn't deal with it the right way. So the next morning when I woke up, I had to sit him down and say, look, I'm sorry that I talked to you. I understand how you feel. I had to validate his feelings. You were hurt that your sister left you. You know, even though I tried to help him understand that sometimes people will do things that are unexpected. Your sister might leave you because she wants to ride faster or whatever, but I don't want you to feel like there's something wrong with you for crying the way that you did. And the only reason I'm sharing that example is that people understand that our parents traumatized us so much, so much. You know, we were traumatized. I'll give you another example. The other day, I was just telling my wife, I said, these are our children, they are so stressful. We'll send them to boarding school. Immediately I said it, she got so upset. And later on, we realized that the reason she got so upset was because she was bullied in boarding school. So just thinking about her children being in that, in short, she wasn't happy with me. She was angry with me. How can you say that? How can you say our children should, you know? And I was looking at her, I was like, just suggestion, Neo. I didn't, like, I'm not saying we're going to, you know, I was surprised about her reaction. But the reason I'm giving you this example is to say, we are traumatized. And every day we are reacting whenever we feel threatened. So you see, my telling my wife that I'm going to take our children to boarding school, that was a threat to her. How was it a threat to her? Because it reminded her of what she experienced when she was in school. And so that her reaction that she had to me was not really her reaction to me. That was a reaction to what had happened in the past. Now, as long as everybody can think of themselves that way, unless you think you've never been traumatized, if you think you've been traumatized, that is what the therapist does for you. The therapist helps you understand where you're coming from, helps you make sense of why you do the things that you do and how you do the things that you do and why you behave the way that you behave. And when you have that understanding, then they equip you with better tools to live a better life. So essentially, you are able to observe yourself. So you see how I said, I wanted to tell my wife, super sporting, see what you did. I actually had the thoughts, but I was able to separate myself from the thought. I understand that was my history speaking. I understand that was my conditioning speaking, but I didn't act on it. I didn't do anything about it. That's what therapy essentially does for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Chuko, Dr. Sam Iwa. I appreciate your time. Our time is fast spent. We have just about less than 4 minutes more, and I've got a lot of cool folks, you know, sending in questions that we can't even answer. You know, I'm guessing we might have to do a part 2 of this because something happened the last episode I had with Dr. Obadari, the cybersecurity expert. We had so many questions that we couldn't answer them. And then we knew it's going to come back. And I think the same thing is happening. We have to do this again because I have a lot of questions and these are life issues. People are, you know, they're traumatized. They're going through a lot. They want to learn. You know, I have Nafis Tuna said, yes, it does. You have to come back. That is someone saying you have to come back. You know, people from social media, they say you have to come back, and they said yes, you have to come back. So we have to work
I'm open to it.
Time, you know, to get you back, and then find time to really, address this situation.
No problem. No problem. No
Thank
problem.
you
No
so
problem.
much.
No
We
problem.
appreciate it, Doctor. And for
Thank
everybody
you
who
for
was joining
having
us,
me.
thank you for being this, for joining us on this Global Talkative series. I'm still your host, Lanre Ajayi. Thank you very much. We love you. We appreciate you. It's bye for now.
Thank you.